Good afternoon. We have John De Luisa, President of the Mexican Federation, and Don Garber, Chairman of MLS. And Don Garber is going to, after the speaking engagement, is going to be on the mix zone for more questions. And we can start.
Great.
Don, how are you?
I'm great.
Good.
Good to be here in
Don,
Miami.
terrific season and growing of MLS with 23 years of the MLS growing on everything, on the ratings and the audiences. What is that drive this success of MLS in the United States?
Well, first, it's great to be here. I appreciate everybody coming out. You know, there isn't one single thing. It really does start with the original plan. And while there's lots of people around the world that think differently about that plan, without that focus on partnership and a unique structure, MLS isn't what it is today. There's been a deep, deep commitment to understanding that sometimes you have to pivot. That originally we were playing in big football stadiums, and then we built a bunch of soccer stadiums, and we had 70,000 on Sunday in a big football stadium. So you have to recognize as an emerging business that you need to evolve and to think differently about what your thoughts were today and what they might be today and tomorrow. We've obviously done the same thing around our player strategy. What was a name designated player is now a impact designated player and is now hundreds of millions of dollars in youth development funding. So I think there's a lot of things that the league has done, but I think the most important part is our country is a soccer nation.
Yeah.
And I say countries, the US and Canada, and there's an enormous movement, if you will, to get behind the sport. And MLS has been one of the drivers of sort of this soccer nation value for everybody, not just for us, but our media partners, our partnering leagues and federations, and everybody else that loves the game.
Incredible, with 75 foreign players playing on MLS is, I think was like 35 of those playing on the World Cup representing the different countries. And talking about the soccer nation, I imagine the Mexican represented here with John De Luis, I'm sure is a big part of this, of your audience. And John, could you tell us a little about, especially on how you grow in the fan base and here in the US, of course, is one of the biggest Latin ethnics that is here. What are you doing with the conversation with your relationship with Soccer United? What are you doing with your partnership with Univision or other sponsors? Could you tell us a little about that?
Of course, Dario, and happy to be here. Happy always to be with my friend Don and to share these experiences with Soccerex USA. We have had this strategic partner for over 16 years, Don.
Yeah.
And this has been a natural strategic relation where we have both grown together. And I think that puts us in the best possible position to continue the growth. We have several divisions within our relation. Obviously, we have our annual tour, which, to give an example, in the last 5 years, we have been in over 19 venues, exploring not only the natural markets where there's a huge Mexico's origin fan base, but also exploring new markets. We were a few weeks ago in Nashville. It was a fantastic experience, good match.
Great match.
USA, Mexico, two young teams looking forward to the near future. So the first thing is to have a very good annual tour. Secondly is to have also strategic partners among our sponsors. And I think that has been a tremendous effort from some side in order to get extremely good companies, not only on their actual business, but how they want to relate with the fans. And that is something that we are working together in order not only to have these good companies in terms of US market, but also if we can share these type of sponsorships throughout the border. That's something that we're looking forward.
John, are you talking, for example, Coca-Cola is an MLS sponsor, is a Mexican national team. Of course, they are represented in both countries. Are you talking both sides of the Rio Grande?
Even though there are different companies, or I'm sorry, different offices within the same company, yes, we are talking with many of them and with some strategic partners. Like a few months ago, or even longer than that, we found this Delta and Aeromexico sponsorship. Yeah. Delta for the US, Aeromexico for south of the border. And we believe that the greater value that we can give our sponsors, the more sponsors and the better brands will like to relate with Mexico's national team products.
You know, Dara, I think it's important to go back to 2002.
Yeah.
2002, for everybody here and a lot of young people in the audience, FIFA could not sell the English language World Cup rights in the United States. Univision had a deal, ABC had it in '98, and they could not get a partner. That's how immature the commercial market was for soccer in America. MLS was only a couple of years old with a handful of sponsors. Mexico had a number of promoters that was promoting their tour. They had a handful of sponsors that came in and came out. And US soccer had very few partners. And the goal of that company was basically to raise the commercial value of soccer in North America, to get our industry to have the same kind of engagement from broadcasters, sponsors, from merchandising partners like Nike and Adidas and others that the NBA had, or the NFL had, or baseball had, because they've been around for 100 years. And that's happened. If you look at the partners that the FMF has and MLS has, you look at the partners for U.S. Soccer Federation, the NWSL, the USL, we are now a powerful commercial market that the rest of the world now rightfully is looking to take advantage of. But 20 years ago, that didn't exist. So when you think about our partner in Mexico and our partner with the Federation, this is good for everybody that's around the game. And ultimately, I think it's going to continue to grow. We'll talk later on about what kinds of things on the field and on the technical side we're doing together, as we're now where we all want to be commercially. Now it's about competition, it's about player development, it's about leading up to the World Cup. It's about ensuring that our broadcast partners have the best technology and the best schedule, and giving our fans, whether they're fans of the FMF, fans of the Federation, fans of MLS, the content programming and value that they deserve.
And talking about that, players on the field, are you on the academy side? Mexico, of course, has a great World Cup, and are you also trying to exchange that talent? Are you trying to the academies? Are you in conversation and creating this exchange of soccer and creating both practices and hopefully the next World Cup both countries are represented there?
Yes, of course. We have worked together between U.S. Soccer and the Mexican Federation for many years. However, I think that the context on hosting a joint World Cup and being unity our main driver, this is going to change in the following years. The way we share knowledge with Canada and with the US, it's going to be completely changed. We are already speaking to Canada for December next year to host under 15 and under 17 teams in Mexico's national team facility for over 2 weeks. Not only for under 17 and under 15 matches, but also to exchange knowledge with the head coaches. So I am sure that that's not only an individual effort, this is going to be something that among US, Canada, and Mexico we will develop in the next 8 years and over that.
And Don, tell me, what do you represent having the best sport event on the world in 2026?
Well, something that struck me, everybody was here to see Victor's comment. You think about where our region was a couple years ago and where it is now, and how a region now is going to be able to bring the biggest sporting event in the world here, to show the rest of the world what is happening in this part of the world. And I've always thought as an American that we were always subject to sort of being outside the influence of having the influence of the rest of the world. People don't view our league the way they view other leagues. They don't view our national teams the way they view. They don't really understand what the value is of the rising tide of what's happening here in the CONCACAF region. And what Victor's doing to get the smaller countries who are now competing well on the field, have competition that's going to be far better than it used to be. They have their Nations League, and you're going to see more work and activity in the Champions League, and Soccer United Marketing works with CONCACAF on that. You think about where we'll be, we ought to be, with the size of our populations here, with the economic energy that comes out of some of the largest, most important companies in the world, with stability in this part of the world from a political perspective, we ought to be able to stand toe-to-toe with CONMEBOL and with UEFA and the rest of the sporting world from a governance perspective. And the World Cup is going to be the thing that will pull us there. You know, businesses never have an 8-year defined moment in time. I don't care what company it is, you don't know where you're going to be 8 years from now. Well, we do. We'll know where we are from a federation perspective. Our respective leagues will know where we'll need to be. Kids who are growing up will have the aspiration of being able to either see great competition in their home markets or maybe dream to be able to play for their respective national teams. And that's what this World Cup will do for us. And it's not just for MLS or the FMF or US Soccer. It's the entire soccer movement throughout these 3 countries at the very least. It's a dream come true, and it'll provide generational value that if we're smart and connected, if we're strategic in how we work together, and we have a long-term plan, which every entity in business needs to have, then it ought to be great for everybody.
Fantastic. And talking about joint forces, tell us a little about Campeones Cup and, you know, the new
I'll give you
Mexican.
my perspective.
Don't tell us the result. We all know the results. But
so, you know, listen, we have, since the day MLS has been founded, recognized that, you know, the Hispanic market, whether it's in our cities that are traditionally viewed as Hispanic cities from a political perspective, or it's any city around the world, around the country, there's this movement that's happening in the Hispanic and the Latino market. And we have that incredible opportunity to deliver product for people who believe in it like they believe about their family, and they believe about their religion, and they believe about their food. It's part of their DNA. And the traditional American sports fan, as you see in markets like Atlanta or Kansas City, are getting there. So we've always thought we have to have a close relationship with Liga MX and with the FMF. It wasn't about commercial opportunity, it was about strategic opportunity. We had our Campeones Cup with Enrique Benitez, my counterpart at Liga MX. We're talking about bigger things that we might want to do together. Perhaps that tournament, there's a tournament that leads up to a championship. Perhaps there's an all-star game that would take place. I mean, why are we playing against international clubs? Why aren't we playing against
maybe
our
Mexican all-star game versus US all-star game?
Great things. So, you know, Jan's been an important part of leading those discussions. Enrique unfortunately couldn't be here today, but we're like brothers. You know, we're working together to see what we can do to just deliver value for all of our fans.
Fantastic. And John, how back to the U.S. audience? How important in monetary in investment is to come to play to the U.S. for the games that Soccer United Marketing organize? Like how important is in your federation that?
In Mexico, we are quite fortunate to have 2 regions as one country in terms of fan base. And here in the
Soccer
States,
nation.
It's a soccer nation for us. Here in the States, and this is something that we have worked with Don and the rest of some team, we have almost 40 million fans. It's over 37 million. So that is not only an opportunity, but it's also a challenge, because we need to understand that these generations have changed as they have moved on. Now we're speaking to a 3rd generation of Mexican Americans. The first one speak mostly Spanish. For the 3rd one, it's over 80% that they speak English. So
and most likely they go to MLS games.
Of course, and they watch through TV. They watch other leagues, international players. So it's a huge opportunity, but it also represents a challenge, and that's one of the other things that we are developing together with some different type of contents. We are not only speaking Spanish in the US for the Mexican fans, now we're speaking in English to the Mexican fans. We need to understand that throughout the development of the fan base, we as a product need to develop along with them.
Are you, as a Mexican federation, learning? America is the sport marketing mecca in the world, like, you know, from all the different sport organization, of course, MLS. But are you, your federation, are learning a lot of standard practices and a lot of know-how that you are also bringing back to Mexico?
For us, it's a natural process, since we've been working together for 16 years with a group of experts. A few hours ago, someone was telling me, are you going to open an office here in the States? We don't need that.
Yeah.
We already have our office through SOM's office.
Yeah.
And of course, we have learned a lot of things throughout these years, not only coming here and having our matches or searching for sponsors, but working throughout strategic meetings. I believe last week we had over 10 people from the Mexican Federation in SOM's offices for over 3-day period, just thinking strategically, what are we going to do in the next 12 and 24-month period. So of course there's a lot of knowledge that we bring back to Mexico, and there's some knowledge that we put in the table in order to get to a broader fan base and to do it strategically on a long term.
Fantastic. And Don, now we just announced here, we are in Miami, the new stadium for Davis team, Inter Miami. Could you, we know you fought a lot for
Not
this.
enough
Tell us
cheering,
something
man. Maybe
about
we'd
it.
have a tough time selling tickets.
What's your take? What do you think is going to happen in Miami?
Yeah.
We are all very excited.
So I'd say, you know, this falls in the life's a long time category. You know, fortitude and patience and hard work. This was the most difficult deal that we ever did in the history of the league.
Started like 10 years ago.
Nearly 10 years. And we try to think about how young we are. We're still only in the 23rd year. We've had so many challenges to get through some of the obstacles that we have, which are we're still fighting against a market and a culture where soccer is not their first love. We've always believed that in many ways it is its first love in Miami. But all big cities, we're seeing this in New York City and in Boston and certainly in Miami, land is expensive. In this particular region, the mayor here was very, very supportive, but there is a very unique political structure in Miami that makes these kinds of projects really challenging. But as we thought about this year, an election day was important for our country for so many different reasons. For our league, we had 3 public votes. We won 2 of those 3, and we lost 1 in San Diego. And in Miami, we won a vote by 60% of the voters, people who are basically voting to say we want to bring Major League Soccer to an unbelievable stadium environment that will be $1 billion project that Jorge Mas and his partners, David and Marcelo Claure and Masa Son from SoftBank, will create an unbelievable global franchise. This is the gateway to the Southern Hemisphere. We've wanted a team here for many, many years, but you need to have a great place to play. And we have fought the fight with our partners, David and Marcelo, originally to say, unless we get the right stadium, we can't come, or we'll have challenges that we'll have to address years later. We're really excited. It's in a great location. It's going to be transformational for people here in Miami. David is the brand director on the logo. Pick the name, pick the design, pick the colors.
Wow.
He literally was the guy managing the agency. He's now hired Paul McDonough and to be his technical guy, and Jürgen Mick has come in to, you know, be the Jorge Mas's first employee. It's going to be really cool. Years from now, it's not happening anytime soon, but it's going to be fantastic.
We are all very excited about it. Tell us a little about how you can attract these younger audiences that they're participants playing the sport, but they really spend a lot of time on the digital devices. How are you working with the different networks to try to approach them to get the PlayStation audiences?
You want to try that for Mexico, and I'll take it for what we do here.
Of course, we're trying to generate different type of contents. Maybe a few years ago, we were only covering the matches and focusing on people going to the stadium and turning on their TVs. Nowadays, the media consumption of the fan has changed drastically. So it's shorter contents with high level of information. It's not only just turning on the TV, they want statistics, they want to know how they are doing their players, if they can watch part of their training session, or how the coaches talk to them, how they are planning the following matches. I think how the content is generated, it is completely different. Of course, there's a challenge for a national team compared to a normal club.
You don't have so often the players.
Exactly, the club have the players throughout most of the 52 weeks throughout the year, and the national team, normally they have in a certain amount, maybe 8, 10 or 12 times a year and for a few days, and normally the head coach wants to concentrate on what's going on with the next match. However, like within this partnership, we are already working to find those specific moments where we can generate that type of content to help not only our fans, but also our commercial partnerships.
And is that something, a unit that is inside the federation, or you use a partnership with, for example, with Televisa that bring you the people and do that? How you do that?
It's two separate things. Of course, we work together with our partners, here in the States with Univision, in Mexico with Televisa and TV Azteca. But we have a group of people within the federation that generates content, first for our social media, and second, directly for our commercial partners. And that is apart from what we do along with our media partners.
Branded content.
Yes, we have the 2 points of generating the content.
Fantastic.
So Derek, from an MLS perspective, and I think you'd see this no different in the NFL and the NBA, the other major leagues here in North America, it's a laser focus for us. We're all in our industry mindful of how the millennial market is engaging with their free time and what options they have and how they're engaging with sports. We're fortunate in that a larger percentage of our fan base are millennials than any other sports league. We are the fastest growing professional league in the United States and Canada as it relates to young fans. So that's happening because they come from the game, right? And that's a positive thing for us. There are challenges in other sports that we've not yet fully had to address. But it's a focus of our office. You know, we've got 100 people that are thinking about data analytics and how are we creating content, how are we distributing that content, how are we going out and researching our fans to understand what matters to them, what are they thinking about our product, when do they want to see our games, how do they want to engage with our social media channels. And we have a fan panel of 20,000 people who have self-selected that they want to talk to us. And we talk to them every single week. And we're coming up with new initiatives. We're not doing it because a bunch of guys with suits think it makes sense. It's because our fans who are our consumers think it makes sense. So it's a laser focus. It's run by a guy named Gary Stevenson in our office, who's a brilliant guy and has really got an unbelievable team. And then it goes to our partners at Univision, Fox, and ESPN, who are thinking about how they're engaging with a consumer that's moving to different platforms. We're very excited about our ESPN Plus package on ESPN. It's one of the drivers of their increasing subscriptions, and we're focused on our over-the-top product and thinking about how we make it more attractive and more accessible. And then lastly, it's about social media, which is evolving and changing in its own right. And we're growing our audiences in that space. We've got dozens of full-time people who are creating content no different than any other brand or series of brands, so that that young consumer cares more about us.
And back to the success of MLS, Don, and what do you think are the key points or the key elements that a group of people in a city that wants to bid for a franchise? What is the success of a team, for example, like Seattle, of Atlanta?
Yeah.
What teams like that has with other that they're not doing so well, like Columbus, for example?
So I'll leave the Columbus one as a bad example for now, just for expediency's sake. But I think it starts with recognizing the fact that we have not cracked the code, that this is a slow and steady approach to building a league that needs to have clubs that are relevant in their community, that are connected with their fans, that have players that they can deliver, that our fans will care about, and have facilities that continue to evolve and be forward-thinking and leaning into what the modern sports fan is looking like. So when we speak to a new expansion market, we say to them, there's a lot of things that we feel good about. You know, success is not final, right? So we feel good about where we are, but every single day we're going to sleep with one eye open and thinking about what are the challenges that we need to address, and not taking our eye off the ball that soccer, professional soccer, is still an emerging sport in North America. I wish I could tell you why Atlanta is as successful as it is. I've said this publicly. Arthur Blank, who's a successful entrepreneur, told us for 10 years that we would succeed in Atlanta. We've seen some other challenges in that market, and we were really fearful about it. But then we dug into not what Arthur thought, but what was happening demographically in that city. It's a state that is attracting lots of businesses. So people are moving to that city that don't have an affinity for the traditional teams, whether it be the Falcons or the Atlanta Braves. So they were coming in and they didn't have any connection. And then all of a sudden you have Tata Martino, and you got Miguel Almiron, and you have Joseph Martinez, and you have some things that are happening, and it just created a value that we're excited about. But that doesn't mean that we're going to go to another market that's playing in a football stadium and expect that we're going to replicate that success. That team is relevant. They've been smart. They've had a good coach, really good coach.
Yeah.
And they've had some great players.
Potentially another Mexican alliance there.
Tremendous business leader, and a guy named Darren Eales, who was an outside-the-box CEO. We'd never had a guy like Darren, and now we have Ian Ayres, who I understand is here, came from Liverpool, and that's the new model that's coming in as the new CEO of our teams. And as long as we recognize that the success that we have can't necessarily be engaged immediately with a switch, when we ought to have success in Nashville, Cincinnati, Miami, and others. But I encourage everybody, just take a deep breath.
Stay.
Still got a long way to go.
And talking about that, where do you see MLS? I'm not going to ask you 10 years from now, but 5 years from now, 4 years, like.
You know, we'll have 28 teams. Hopefully, we'll be more
28
popular.
teams.
We'll have increasing great partnerships with our media partners, particularly Fox, ESPN, and Univision. We'll have a growing relationship with our friends at the FMF, and a continually engaged partnership with our federation. I hope our clubs, and I know there's going to be, it was just a discussion on women's soccer, I hope they'll get more engaged with the NWSL and recognize that it's not just about what we want, it's about trying to create a broader soccer market that ultimately will help raise the water level for the sport overall. I think we will become more engaged internationally and get closer to FIFA and get closer to UEFA, and continue our great partnership with Philippe and Victor and CONCACAF, and just focus. Try to continue to grow carefully and strategically, and hopefully be better off a year from now than we are today.
And John, how about for the federation? Where do you see the federation focusing against on this alliance in the US and in Mexico? Where do you see the federation going business-wise in terms of partnerships and with networks or sponsors? Or?
Of course, the time span of federation is always a World Cup cycle. That's how we work, and fortunately, in this case, I think that it's the same for Canada, for US, and for Mexico. We have expanded that time span to 8 years because we are now making decisions that will affect the results that we or our 3 national teams they have on 2026. So as Carlos was mentioning in this morning, they will try to have the best national team possible.
Yeah.
Canada will do the same, and Mexico will do the same. So in terms of on the sports side, we are already working on the national team that we want to have on 2026. We are already selecting a group of, many of them are kids, but a group of 70 players that will help us get the best results possible in 2026. Speaking to Victor Montagliani a few weeks ago, he was mentioning the US and Mexico teams, and I'm sure that Canada will improve as well, but the US and Mexico's team, they both have to be contenders to the title. This is our chance.
Wow.
And we have to work towards that, and we have to believe we can today. Otherwise, if we start thinking about that on 2023 after Qatar, it might be already too late. So on the sports side, we need to work now. And having a 2026 World Cup, it's not only on the sports side, it's also on the fan base, on the commercial side. So we are already, as of today, we have already 2/3 of our commercial negotiations for 2022, and we expect to end them in the first quarter of next year. However, we already began negotiating towards 2026. Why? Because our partners, they are already looking at for the opportunities that having a World Cup will represent. And we know that the investment, not only in terms of knowledge and hours, and I see on the back of this audience, I see John Christic, which was a tremendous leader in the effort on getting 2026 and all the team back in New York. All that effort is already giving us special bonuses, and not only with the fans among the 3 nations, but also with our partners. So yes, we have bigger opportunities, nicer challenges, and we look forward to have the best possible 8 years, not only for 8 years.
And talking about that, Don, what do you represent the US-Mexico game, the games that they play here, that's this rivalry that exists commercially, but also on the field?
So, you know, we have this theme about, and I think it's a theme in global football, of this concept of rivalries, and that lives in its biggest way when the US plays Mexico. It's the largest rating that we get in Univision. It's the largest value in terms of our commercial business. It's the biggest excitement for our fans, which matters a lot. And we've been trying to create that dynamic where, you know, New York is playing New York and Portland is playing Seattle, and some exciting playoff games. So I think it's one of the great unique things about our sport. You know, I know the Philadelphia Eagles and the Giants have a big rivalry, but when a US-Mexico game is, it's like God and country, man. People just really, really care about it. So I think when you start seeing that on our soil for the World Cup, you know, that hopefully we'll figure out the right way. I mean, I'm not making the schedule, but hopefully that will play itself out, and I think it's going to be wonderful.
Fantastic. Good luck with the Campeones Cup. Good luck with the joint forces for the 2026, and we appreciate that you've been here. And we want to thank John and Don to be here. And as I mentioned, Don is going to be in the press giving some interviews in the back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dario.
Thank you. It's great seeing you. Good job, Dario.